Marco Morgan reporting. Criminal defense attorney Randy Zelin is here, has been following this case. It is a strange one. Randy, this idea of gifting a child to another person, as we understand it, the parents actually researched the legality of gifting, not adopting, gifting a child. How is that even legal?
I'm not sure that they meant gifting.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania, like a lot of states and throughout the world, arranged child marriages have been recognized. And in fact, in Pennsylvania, there is a marital exception to a sexual assault or a rape case, not based upon force, but based upon, for example, age, where it has nothing to do with being forced against your will, but strictly that you're unable to consent, for example, because of your age. In fact, in states across the country, underage children can be married, and in fact, as young as 13 or 14 years old with court approval. What this case really becomes, and I'm going to get flack for this, but again, my job is to defend. Had these people not said anything and used the term gift, the more appropriate way to negotiate this case with a prosecutor is to discuss this reasonable belief that there was an arranged marriage. She was 14 at the time, and if the parents consented and Mr. Kaplan was under a reasonable belief that this was part of an arranged marriage rather than a gift, the case, again, we may not agree as far as the public is concerned, but at least now you can start to, I hate to say it, but shoehorn it into more of a judicially or a criminally okay, an exception to being charged with such a horrific crime. And of course, two things that were said were important here. Number one, that the children and everyone appears to be in good condition and in good shape, so I would argue no abuse. That puts the client in a different footing. Adding to that, this notion of an arranged marriage and $1 million bail. In Pennsylvania, bail is not supposed to be punitive. In Pennsylvania, it's not about danger. It's strictly about whether or not you're going to come to court when you're supposed to. And I don't know that there's anything in the record to suggest that any of these people have a history of not coming to court when they're supposed to.
Randy, why would the 18-year-old's father be facing charges such as endangering the welfare of children, criminal conspiracy, statutory sexual assault? I mean, she's a legal adult. And police aren't saying a whole lot about this as they unravel this.
Well, again, something that really resonates with me is the fact that we don't know whether or not these children have been abused, which kind of separates out this notion of being abused merely because of one's age, as opposed to being abused physically, emotionally, or mentally. So I found that to be important. But to answer your question, you have three types of crimes as far as the parents are concerned, really two very specific ones. You have this notion of a conspiracy. A conspiracy is nothing more than an agreement to commit a crime between at least two people, and someone does something in furtherance of the crime. So it's different than the actual crime. The classic example, let's say, being a bank robbery. If I agree with someone else to commit a bank robbery, and I go and call a car rental agency to go rent a car as the getaway car, the conspiracy is complete. We never actually have to rob the bank. It's the agreement. So you have this agreement amongst the two parents and Mr. Kaplan for this gifting. Then, as far as the parents themselves are concerned, anytime you act in a way that is injurious to the physical, mental, or emotional well-being of a child, you've committed the crime of endangering the welfare of a minor. So before we get to any of these exceptions, like the marital exception, or some good faith, listen, in my religion, we can marry our kids off at 13 or 14. You may not agree with it, but you cannot treat me the same way as someone who pulled a 14-year-old off the street who was walking past a convenience store, took her in my van, took her back to a motel, and then raped her. That, I would argue, as a defense lawyer, is a markedly different set of facts.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, do you think the fact that the parents and the kids may have come from an Amish background may complicate things a little?
It will simplify things if I'm a defense attorney. It will complicate things if I am a prosecutor. It will complicate things if I'm a juror, and it may complicate things if I'm a judge.
Disturbing details. Randy Zelin, we thank you as always, sir.
Thank you.